probably the most shocking news of the day, in a day where there was just tons and tons and tons of shocking news. I mean, not like, shocking as in the sport is changing, but shocking as in guys that are going into the portal. The news on Tuesday night that hit was that Demond Williams was going into the portal, from Basha Chandler, Arizona, quarterback, obviously from Washington, played 2 years ago for them. Was kind of being groomed for that role there. Started all season long this year, had over 3,000 passing yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 611 rushing yards. He was the eighth highest graded quarterback in the Big Ten on PFF. He was a little iffy this season, and on the road and in some pressure situations and stuff like that. But overall, Demond Williams is a fantastic talent, and Washington was going to reap the rewards of having him play the past 2 years, and really, him come in with a good recruiting class this next year on the defensive side of the ball. Not, I mean, good recruiting class in multiple ways, but definitely on the defensive side of the ball with some better linebackers and stuff like that. But overall, really, really sucks for Washington in this one that Demond Williams does not look like he's going to be back. Now, there's a lot to this story, and we're going to try to get into all of it here. But if you listen to the 24/7 guys, in their kind of emergency podcast about this, they brought up that in fact Demond Williams' agent is the same agent as Jedd Fisch. Now, what could we do with that information? That information can go a whole lot of different ways, and we could sit here with a whiteboard, the guy with the meme with like the type of guy. You could do that a lot in this situation with that information. But what we do know is that Demond Williams entered into the transfer portal with a do not contact tag, which can indicate that somebody knows where they're going. Doesn't always indicate that. Some guys want to, some guys know they're going to be a hot enough commodity in the portal that they will not want other teams to contact them. They will want to be the one contacting other teams. Now, teams can still do that and stuff, but that's kind of their way of saying, like, I have an idea of where I want to go, or I was being tampered with and I know where I want to go. And if you followed, Demond Williams or anything like that, on January 2nd, it came out that from Adam Schefter from Adam Schefter, who was the one that kind of broke this on Twitter and everything else. But Adam Schefter was the one that broke that he announced an extension with a new contract signed 4 days ago on January 2nd. So now, 4 days ago, Maryland, Washington fans think they're great. Washington fans think Demond Williams definitely coming back. And then 4 days later, the night of January 6th, he's announcing, I'm going into the transfer portal. Do not contact tag. This whole story is honestly pretty crazy. I have no idea what's going to happen next. Nobody really knows what's going to happen next. All we know is that Washington, apparently sourcing to Adam Schefter, he tweeted this out as well. He said, quote, Washington sources say they are prepared to pursue legal avenues to enforce Demond Williams' signed contract. End quote. That's going to be very interesting to see how all this turns out. This is kind of like a Xavier Lucas situation 2.0. My biggest question is, if Jedd Fisch and Demond Williams had the same agent, did Jedd Fisch know this was happening? Or is there something going on with Jedd Fisch, with the NFL? Because we just had Black Monday. Is there something going on with Jedd Fisch and the NFL that Demond Williams knew it's likely that Jedd Fisch isn't going to be back here, or Jedd Fisch is planning not to be back here, so I got to get myself out of here. And really, we can talk about, like, well, but Washington can enforce the contract and they can get him back and everything else. Do they want to, though? Like, it's the same thing with Wisconsin, but also a higher magnitude, because this is your quarterback. You really want to bring a guy back who it's clear he's not invested in this team. He doesn't want to play for them, and maybe you have stuff going on with your head coach as well. He's indicating he doesn't want to play for anybody but that head coach. It's pretty shady stuff, and I think at the end of the day, if you're a Washington fan, there's really no avenue for Demond Williams to come back here. Like, I hate to say that for Washington fans, because I think, obviously Washington fans deserve to reap the reward of the development of Demond Williams these past couple of years, but I just don't see a situation where this happens. I think whoever it is that is going after Demond Williams, most likely Lane Kiffin there at LSU, I'll explain that in a second, but whoever it is that's going after Demond Williams here is probably just going to have to pay a little bit more of, whatever's in the contract, whatever else it might be, and they're going to get Demond Williams to go on over to their school. And even if all of this happens after the transfer portal closes, guess what? Xavier Lucas still made it down to Miami, so Demond Williams still might just make it on down to LSU. So if this is LSU here in this one, the Big Ten sounds like they would probably get involved with this. They got involved with the Xavier Lucas thing as well. And this could turn into a real big Big Ten versus SEC issue kind of fight. In my opinion, and I get it if you're an Oregon fan, but I also think we need to look at this very logically and understand what this means ramification wise for college football. Everybody should be supporting the Big Ten in Washington here. All of these media personalities that talk about how much they love college football, they're about to be tested because if they come out not supporting the Big Ten and not supporting Washington here, then you can tell that all of that is hogwash. All of that is a lie because they don't actually love college football because this is destroying our sport right now. Not this situation in particular, but things like this that are going on. Players signing contracts, not honoring those, players leaving, at the drop of a hat because of whatever else it might be. Like this is the kind of stuff that ruins college football for a lot of people. The money, the transfer portal have already been big changes, but if you thought that you had a player locked up coming back and not locked up but locked in coming back, all that stuff, then this is the kind of stuff that's just going to frustrate people. Like I said earlier, it's one of the reasons why I'm not such a huge fan of college basketball now. Obviously college basketball has not done this a whole lot, but still the kind of transient nature of players and how often they move and everything else. It's I still like college basketball, don't get me wrong, but it is a little bit harder to get into when you have an all new starting five the next season, and if you have an all new starting quarterback every single season in college football, yeah, that's not great for the sport. One of the reasons why I referenced LSU as the possible landing spot here is because that Demond Williams was committed to Ole Miss before he flipped to Arizona, and then obviously he went from Arizona to Washington with Jedd Fisch. And the coach who was at Ole Miss at the time was Lane Kiffin. And Lane Kiffin's kind of been striking out with quarterbacks here. They brought Sam Levin in for a visit, but he's not really committed, so we'll see what happens there. But it doesn't look like Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, Trinidad Chambliss might leave to go there, but that's not something I would, be super reliant on because he also has to get the waiver and all that stuff as well. Sounds like Demond Williams is probably going on off to LSU in this one. But I said I don't think Demond Williams came back. So what's the other thing that Washington can do here? It's not a great situation, but one thing I think they possibly could do is Washington could go after Noah Fifita. Noah Fifita is going to be a redshirt senior this year at Arizona. Could they, get him to go into the transfer portal? Obviously, that didn't happen before, but there are rumors that Fifita was on campus earlier this week. Does that mean that Jedd Fisch knew this was coming and he was preparing for it? I don't know. Like I said, just rumors at this point. We'll see if anything happens. I would say that, it would not be completely out of the question to see Noah Fifita in the next day or two maybe enter into the transfer portal and do something like that. But then again, he also stayed there when Jedd Fisch left before, so he might just be really loyal and not willing to do that. We'll see what happens. There's going to be quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Heck, go get Aidan Chiles, Okay, sorry, Washington fans. I know you might not love that. But we'll see what happens with all of this. This is a pretty crazy situation. We'll keep you updated here on the Big Ten Huddle.